Hey friends, welcome to my podcast. Today we are going to look on how to cultivate positive emotions, and for that I have with me Dr. Joshua Zachariah. Hey Dr. Joshua, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. So we're going to look about how to cultivate positive emotions. So go ahead.
Yeah. A lot of us, we battle in our lives a lot of negative emotions like sadness, like despair, loneliness, hopelessness, depression, and all of these negative emotions can take up a lot of space in our lives. And sometimes it's possible to, what we try to do is we try to push all of these negative emotions out of our head. We try to just stop thinking about it, and we just try to live as if we are not having those negative emotions. But the process of cultivating positive emotions goes much more deeper than just trying to ignore the negative emotions or just trying to do something for the sake of doing something. In Matthew chapter 12, Jesus says a small story about how when an evil spirit leaves a person, it goes into the desert and seeks some kind of rest. But when it finds nothing, it comes back to the person it left from. When it comes back, it sees everything lying empty, lying clean and tidy, just waiting for this evil spirit to come back. So the evil spirit comes back into that person and brings more more problems with it, and the state of the person is worse than it was in the beginning. So sometimes when we try to deal with our negative emotions in that way, if we don't replace it with the proper way of cultivating positive emotions, these negative emotions can come back stronger than before. And so that's the importance, I feel, of understanding what's the foundation of dealing with negative emotions and positive emotions.
Okay, so what you're saying is removing negative emotions isn't enough, but replacing it with positive emotions is also equally important.
Exactly. We don't just ignore or forget the negative emotions, but we replace them with habits of positive emotions.
Okay. So we'll go through each positive emotions that we can cultivate within ourselves to become better versions of ourselves. Yeah. So first one is joy.
Yeah. So all of these. So the information that I have, I got from a research by a scientist called Barbara Fredrickson. So there are a lot of positive emotions. It's we experience so much in our day-to-day lives, but based on her research, I narrowed down the most important positive emotions into 9 of them. So we'll start with joy. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is joy?
Yeah. Joy is this sense of unbridled happiness, where you just have happiness that's overflowing out of you, where you can't keep it back. It's not happiness where it's like, kolla. Not that kind of happiness, but happiness that you can't contain, you can't hold back. That's joy. It's also according to the research by Barbara Fredrickson, it's also an activation to engage in something more. It's an activation to that you're open for something more.
Okay. And how do we cultivate it?
Yeah. So joy arises in situations. I think it's clear for us, in what situation joys arise. That is in situations where we feel safe, where we feel familiar, when we do something that's low effort. For example, we know we are good at badminton, for example, and when you play badminton and you win against the other person, there's that moment of joy. And so that's one example of something that's familiar, safe, low effort. But how do we cultivate that? In the sense is that we should daily engage in such activities that bring us joy. When we know this is familiar, this is safe, it's not much effort, in the sense of I don't have to invest half an hour to get 1 minute of joy, but it's something where I can put little effort into but get a lot of happiness out of. I think we have to practice that daily, so that we can experience this joy on a daily basis.
Yes. And one question that a lot of people have is, what's the difference between joy and being happy? So
Yeah.
would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. So the word happy is connected also to the word happening, happenstance. So that means happiness comes from something that has happened, a situation that has just happened. So happiness is bound to a certain situation.
Okay.
So if your situation is good,
You'll be happy.
you'll be happy. But joy goes deeper than just surface level happiness. You know that in Philippians, Paul talks about the joy, this rejoicing in the Lord. In that situation also, it is not a good situation that Paul was writing this letter in. He was in chains, he was in prison, he was writing to a church that had enemies against it, was writing to a church that had divisions within it, he was writing to a church that had sicknesses, diseases and deaths. And in the midst of it, he's saying, rejoice in the Lord always. But he's saying not just to be happy because of the chains. He's not a sadistic person. He's saying be happy because of your suffering. He's saying be happy in spite of your suffering, because your reason is because the reason for your joy is rejoice in the Lord. So the reason for his joy was in the Lord.
Something that comes from within.
Exactly. So in the Old Testament, we see also where there were these yearly festivals. There were so many festivals that the Israelites had to just stop and remember and commemorate and just enjoy and celebrate. And those are these moments of focusing upon God and saying, my happiness, my joy comes from Him and not from my situation. Is my job going well? Is my studies going well? Not none of, because sometimes a job doesn't go well. Sometimes studies doesn't go well. But our happiness doesn't come from that. But our joy is rooted on something more eternal, and that's in God. And that's how we can cultivate joy.
Yes, yes, interesting. Interest. Next
Yeah.
emotion.
That's a good segue. Yeah, interest is that it's a feeling of curiosity where you are fascinated, where it's like, oh, I want to know more about it. I'm eager to understand something deeper, because that fascinates me, that interests me. So that is another positive emotions. Maybe it's overlooked a little, but it's also important.
And I think one of the way to cultivate it is to actively spend time in maybe learning new stuff we are interested in.
Exactly. There are a lot of interesting things that we can learn, new skills that we can try to learn, new languages, or learning a new instrument, or just trying to do a Sudoku. For example, just trying out new things that we're not familiar with. Joy is something we do that we get when we do something when we're familiar with. Interest is something when we notice, I don't know that yet, but I want to know more. So.
And I think that gives us a sense of accomplishment once we do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we'll go to the next emotion, which is pride or self-esteem.
Yeah.
So, what is self-esteem? How do we cultivate it?
I think the important thing to notice is that we have to differentiate between healthy pride and unhealthy pride. The Bible talks a lot about unhealthy pride. Proverbs is full of that. Pride goes before a fall, for example. And Bible also talks about haughty people. And so all of this is a kind of pride where you say, I am enough in a way that I don't need God. That is unhealthy kind of pride. But there is a healthy kind of pride as well. Paul, he boasts about the church of Galatia. He says, Paul boasts about other churches that he writes about, and in Galatians he said, when you do your own works, you should be proud of the work that you do. In Galatians chapter 6 verse 4. And so it's that sense of accomplishment of something you are able to do well. God has given each of us talents and gifts that we are good at, we are exceptionally good at. And when we find out what we are good at and we work on it and get better, we have that moment of, okay, that I can do that well. And when we do that for the glory of God, when we know we are secure in what we are able to do for the glory of God, that's a healthy sense of accomplishment. That's a healthy sense of pride, of self-esteem that we should cultivate.
Yeah. Yes. Next emotion is oh.
Yeah, that's, I think, something that doesn't come up that often in our lives, in our natural daily lives, because sometimes we get so busy with work responsibilities that we don't have time to just marvel at something. But awe is that feeling of something is bigger than me. I'm smaller than everything else around me. It's when you stand at the foot of a mountain and you look up, see the 8,000 meters of Mount Everest just towering over you. Or it's when you're flying or in a plane 30,000 feet in the air, and you look down and you see the clouds look like cotton candy. You see mountains like small Lego structures. That's when you feel, wow, I'm just a small thing in a huge, massive thing. Or when you look at astronomy, we see photos from NASA of space and galaxies and planets, and you say, wow, this is our God. He made all of these huge things that I can just marvel at it. And this is that feeling of that when you appreciate the work of God in this grand, large scale.
Yeah, and also there's a song, I stand amazed in
Yes.
the presence of our Lord.
Yes, exactly.
I think also understanding the depth of God's love for us on the cross,
Yeah,
that also brings us, oh, what a
exactly.
great love.
Yeah. There's also another song that I really love. It's Mercy by Matt Redman. And in the bridge, he sings, "May I never lose the wonder of your mercy." And I think that's so important. You know, it's not just the wonder of his mercy, but also the wonder of God's love, the wonder of his creation, of his grand design, of his will and his goodness to us. You know, sometimes we get so busy with the daily lives, we forget how big our God really is. We forget how great his love really is. And so it's an invitation. When we sing the song, "Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee, how great thou art." And it's an invitation to just stop and marvel at God. And that's it's such an important thing that we have to cultivate in our lives.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think being awed at makes us also humble.
It does, because we realize we are so small, but God is so much bigger than every problem that we face. He's so much bigger than every challenge that we face. And we see, if he could create this huge universe, he could create these towering mountains, then every other problem is just small piece for him.
Yes. So we move on to the next emotion, which is inspiration.
Inspiration is also an interesting one. It's that feeling of creativity within you when you feel, I have to do something, I have to make something new that has not existed before. In Psalm 45, the first verse, it says, "Beautiful words stir my heart. I will recite a lovely poem about the king, for my tongue is like the pen of a skillful poet." And here also there's this connection between awe and inspiration, because when you stand in awe, that's when you sometimes feel inspired. Oh, I want to express my awe, my gratitude for this in a new way that has never been done before.
Yes. Okay. So how do we cultivate it more and more in our day-to-day lives?
You know, sometimes people think, "Oh, I'm not a creative person," you know, so they don't do anything new. They say, "Oh, I cannot write songs, I cannot write poems, I cannot write books. It's not for me. I'm not a creative person." So people tend to neglect this positive emotion of inspiration, but it's such a powerful thing that we should not limit it to just the creative arts. You know, if you're able to feel inspired to create a new recipe, for example, that it could be in and of itself inspiration to do something new. So you know, try to find inspiration to try out something you've never done before, in the small things of life, and I feel that will help you to cultivate this gift of inspiration.
Yes. So the next emotion is hope or optimism, being hopeful for something or being awaiting something.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you like to say about hope?
Yeah. You know, this is one of the most important positive emotions that gets lost in depression. One of the key characteristics of depression is hopelessness, is despair, where people say, "I do not have a good future ahead of me. Nothing will work out. Everything is going wrong. Everything will go wrong. Nothing will go right." It's that kind of, the future will not get better. That's why it's so important that we actively work towards instilling hope within us. It's that feeling of knowing tomorrow will be okay. Maybe it may not be amazing, but it'll be okay. I can survive it. I can go ahead. I can take the next step. You're anticipating a positive future. And how we cultivate that in our daily lives is, I think the easiest way is to set goals that are very achievable. You know, those goals can look different for different people. Maybe if someone is struggling with depression, for that person it could be a very easy goal, such as waking up at a certain time in the morning and doing brushing your teeth, because sometimes those kind of things, this kind of personal hygiene can fall away in times of depression. And so setting small goals like this could help us jumpstart us out of depression. But for other people who do not struggle with depression, you could set larger goals, in the sense of, "Oh, I want to, by the end of this year, I want to have studied this book," or "At the end of this year, I want to have read these many subjects and topics." So the goals can look different for each person, but I think the act of setting a goal and saying, "I want to achieve this," gives you something to look forward to, gives you something to anticipate.
Yeah, and I think also having things which we're interested in our schedules, which helps us to look forward for it,
Yeah.
also helps us to have hope.
For sure, for sure. Setting time with friends, for example, just go hang out and have a good time. Going out to eat something with family. I think those are also very important things that we can look forward to.
Yes. The next emotion is gratitude.
Yeah.
Having an attitude of gratitude. So this is a vast thing, but what would you like to say about it?
Yeah, that's one, I would say, the core positive emotion. I think when we have gratitude, we can really appreciate and unlock the fullness of joy, of awe, of inspiration. And it's that feeling of being thankful for all that we have. Sometimes we, in difficult situations, we find, oh, I don't have much to be thankful for. But recently there's a song that came out by Forrest Frank, and in that he says, I've got a roof, I've got a bed, and I can get groceries to keep myself fed. And there are so many things that we can be thankful for. Sometimes we just compare ourselves with things that we haven't got, instead of the things that we already have. And so I think a powerful shift can be to thank God for all of the things that you already have: a roof, a bed, water, clean water, and things like this, breath in our lungs, that we were able to wake up in the morning. Because a lot of people are not able to do that. And so we can actually thank God for all the things that we have, and not let ourselves be bogged down by comparing ourselves with things that we hope for but don't have yet, or things that we're looking forward to but we don't have it in our hands.
Yeah, true, true. And as we're in this new year, it's a good time to reflect on the goodness that God has done to us in the past year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And gratitude, having an attitude of gratitude helps us not only to appreciate the good things, but also feel, have a good self-esteem of where we are,
Yes,
where God
exactly.
has brought us to. Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next emotion, which is very similar to thankfulness or gratitude, which is contentment or satisfaction. For Paul says gratitude and godliness, contentment and godliness is a good wealth. It's a great wealth. What would you like to
Yeah.
talk about?
Exactly. And the key thing to be content, to be satisfied, is to be thankful. They go hand in hand together, the feelings of gratitude and satisfaction. So the devil will try to make us feel unsatisfied with a lot of things. And that's what we see in with Adam and Eve as well. God gave them both the whole garden, filled with trees, filled with fruit, but he said, those two trees, it's not for you. And what did Satan come and say? Hey, did God really say you can't eat anything? Eve said, no, I can eat everything, but that one I cannot have. And that's when he planted a seed of, oh, I don't have everything I need, I'm not content, I'm not satisfied. That's a trick that the devil uses even today. He tries to make us really unsatisfied, discontent with what we have. And so I think the trick to cultivating this contentment, this satisfaction, is to be thankful for the things that we have. And I believe that's when satisfaction and contentment grows within us as well.
It helps us to appreciate the things that we have rather than looking on the things that we don't have. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. And practicing gratitude is a very good step to be joyful, happy,
Yeah.
and have a good living. We'll
Exactly.
move on to the last, but not the least, emotion, which is love.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest one of all this, to be honest, because most of us equate love with a feeling and not a choice. It's you either feel love or you don't feel love. But I think that's a very wrong way in which you can view love. Love is not just a feeling, but it's also an active choice to self-sacrificially and unconditionally to love the other person. And in the Greek there are so many different words for the different expressions of love, for a romantic love, for love between parent and child, for love between brothers, and also a divine, heavenly, self-sacrificial and unconditional love. For us it's more or less easy to experience the romantic love, or experience love between parent and child, or love between friends and brothers. But I think the most difficult one is the self-sacrificial and unconditional love, because that means accepting the other person in spite of their flaws, accepting the other person in spite of the mistakes that they have made or will make. And that is vulnerable, that can hurt.
That's unconditional.
That is unconditional. Exactly.
And how do we practice unconditional love?
Yeah. I think the important thing to practice when we practice unconditional love is to realize that love is not a feeling, it's a choice. It's but not about what you feel, but about how you act. So that's, I think, the most important thing to understand. And also to understand that unconditional love can be painful. You're opening up yourself to get hurt because the other person is not and will not be perfect. The other person will hurt you, they will disappoint you, but unconditional love is saying, in spite of that, I choose to love you, I choose to keep loving you. And the important way to practice that is learn to forgive, learn understanding that the other person is not perfect, and forgiving them, say it's okay, I forgive you, let's move on. That is also quite important.
A Christian who doesn't forgive is a person who has forgotten what he has been forgiven of.
Amen. Exactly. Yeah, just like the parable that Jesus said, we forgive because we are forgiven as well. So that is so important for unconditional love, because basically that's what Jesus showed us on the cross. He loved us unconditionally because we had so many flaws, so many mistakes. We still have flaws and mistakes, but Jesus saw all of that and still chose to die for us, and that shows His unconditional love towards us.
So before we conclude, we'll also look into the roles of positive emotions.
Yeah.
So what are some of the roles of positive emotions and how does it help us in our daily lives?
Yeah, so I mean, these are all basic things that we know about what it means to feel all of these things. It helps us to live a satisfied, a full, a rich life. It helps us form meaningful connections with other people. It helps us to be, to be bound with other people and to go together as a group, as a band of friends. Uh, and I think also, a very important thing is it helps us to cope with stress effectively, because we will have stress. And but if we have a daily habit of trying to cultivate all of these positive emotions, our resilience grows, we grow stronger, and we are like a tree whose roots go deep into the ground when we cultivate all of these emotions, so that when the winds of stress and challenge and hardship come, we are able to stand firmer than the day before. And when we are able to deal with stress more effectively, it also keeps us healthier actually, because stress weakens us. There are stress hormones that are released in our body when we experience constant levels of stress, cortisol for example. And what it does is it basically tears us down from the inside. It makes us weaker, it builds down our immune system. And so when don't experience that high levels of stress, all these stress hormones go down, our body becomes stronger, our body becomes more resilient, more healthy.
Yes, and before we conclude, we'll also talk about broadening and building up positive emotions. So we'll put that diagram on the screen. So would
Yeah.
you like to explain it?
Yeah, so broaden and build is a theory that was put forward by Barbara Fredrickson. So what she said was, each of these positive emotions are connected to each other in open up our lives in order to make our lives richer. So she has a quote which she said, positive emotions broaden an individual's momentary thought action repertoire. Joy sparks the urge to play. Joy, is that openness where you feel like, oh, I want to do something new, something I've never done before. And you have this interest which sparks the urge to explore, where you want to experience something new, where you want to read something new, where you're just curious and you want to learn something. And then contentment, satisfaction, it sparks the urge to savor, to just be in the moment, to be happy, to rest, to integrate. And love sparks a recurring cycle of each of these urges within a safe relationship. And it's how all of these emotions are connected to each other, in a sense that they help open up. One positive emotions leads to another, and they strengthen each other in a cycle that ultimately broadens our life and opens us to newer experiences, to fuller life experiences.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Joshua, for the wonderful uh, topic, cultivating positive emotions. We got to learn that removing negative emotions isn't enough, but also replacing it with the positive ones helps us to live better lives. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.